Welcome to this lecture. The previous one I was referring to a Hindu text, and I said we're going to be looking at Christianity and Islam on leadership as well. And this is about an application of Christian thought to leadership. Now, you're a dynamic student, and you're probably thinking, well, that's enough of him talking. I want something I can get my teeth into, something I can work with. So the next two lectures are going to be about Christianity, leadership, what we can learn, and Islam, leadership, what we can learn. If you are a Christian, if you are a Muslim, you may like, because I haven't included this, you may like to find references in the Hadith or the Quran for Islam, or references in New and Old Testament to support the points I'm making, or to enlarge on the points I'm making. Treat it as your own personal journey. I said at the beginning of this course that this course is really a journey. Now, if you are in fact a Hindu or an atheist or agnostic or Jain or any of the other, or you follow Judaism, then you may choose not to do this. You may say, well, I'm not really that interested in Islam or Christianity and leadership. So you could skip those lectures. Or you might feel you don't want to do any work, which wouldn't be unusual for Udemy students. But make of it what you will. And so we're talking about Christianity and leadership. The first thing I think where you can apply Christianity is that you should always be authentic. You should be yourself. Be your true self. Separate yourself from the demands and voices around you. Yes, you have different roles. You may be a father or a mother, as well as the sales manager, as well as the volunteer or voluntary worker who works part-time on Sundays to help the local community. You may also be the head of the household. So you have different roles, but always be true to yourself and discern the vision, the desires, the pace, and the mission that the Father has given you as a lead. Take off Saul's armor.
Don't accept Saul's armor. I'm talking about King Saul. And I'll read the passage about that and you'll understand what I'm saying. There are people in your life right now that sincerely want to help you, and they've offered you, maybe they've offered you money, maybe they've offered you resources, maybe they've offered you a helping hand, maybe they've offered to pray for you, and that's perfectly fine, everything like that. But some of them have offered you advice. Whatever, I don't know what it is for you, whoever might be watching, but this is gonna really impact somebody. I just know it, right? The Lord wouldn't want me to say this otherwise, I'm sure.
Be clear about yourself. Learn to control your own reactivity. And as Rumi said, to live unfaithfully to yourself is to cause others great damage. And remember that your first work is to be a contemplative before God, i.e., to be with Him. You're not a leader first. You're not the chief executive officer first. You're not even a preacher first. You are called to be a contemplative.
Contemplation is the highest expression of man's intellectual and spiritual life. It is that life itself, fully awake, fully active, fully aware that it is alive. It is spiritual wonder. It is spontaneous awe at the sacredness of life, of being. It is gratitude for life, for awareness, and for being. It is a vivid realization of the fact that life and being in us proceed from an invisible, transcendent, and infinitely abundant source. Contemplation is, above all, awareness of the reality of that source.
Above all else, cultivate a pure heart before God, loving Him. Build the rhythm of the daily office into your life from day one, pausing as Muslims do, but somewhat more than a pause when they pray salat. But pausing this is back to Christianity, pausing 3 to 4 times a day to remember God. You cannot bring people where you have not gone in God. I quote, "Untie my hands and deliver me from sloth. Set me free from the laziness that goes disguised as activity when activity is not demanded of me, and from the cowardice that does what is not demanded in order to escape sacrifice." The third activity or action you could take as someone who's applying Christianity to leadership, to management, is of course to practice the Sabbath. Large spiritual issues are at stake, especially with regard to trust. Trust God to be in control. In many ways, this is an issue of life and death for your long-term future. And remember that you are limited, and embrace the gift of your limits. Remember that a man, now this is a quotation you'll be familiar with, I suspect, a man can only receive what is given him from heaven. Again, in all religions, I suspect, certainly in Islam, whatever you can do, you can only do what Allah wills, what Allah allows. So a man can receive only what is given him from heaven. And wait on the Lord. This is your life. You will finish the end of your days waiting on the Lord. This is the most important work there is if you are to allow your soul to grow up and be what God wants you to be.